Okay, so today is going to be the last day of the readings, and um, we're not going to get through the whole book, but the spoiler alert: the Buddha does die in the end. But we'll continue. This is the last year of his life. And this is from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta and the Vinaya Mahavagga. Now Ambapali, the courtesan, heard that the Blessed One had come to Vesali and was living in her mango grove. She had a number of state coaches made ready. She mounted one of them and drove with them out of Vesali towards her own mango grove, going thus as far as the way was passable for carriages. Then she alighted and went on foot to where the Blessed One was. She paid homage to him and sat down at one side. When she had done so, the Blessed One instructed, urged, roused, and encouraged her with talk on the Dhamma. Then she said to him, Lord, let the Blessed One, together with the Sangha bhikkhus, accept tomorrow's meal from me. The Blessed One consented in silence. When she saw that he had consented, she rose from her seat and after paying homage to him, departed, keeping him on her right. But the Lichavis of Vesali also heard that the Blessed One was living in Ambapali's mango grove. They too had a number of state coaches made ready, and mounting them, they drove out of Vesali. Some were in blue, painted blue, clothed in blue with blue ornaments. Some were in yellow, painted yellow, clothed in yellow with yellow ornaments. Some were in red, painted red, clothed in red with red ornaments. Some were in white, painted white, clothed in white with white ornaments. Ambapali, the courtesan, met the young Lichavis head on, axle to axle, wheel to wheel, yoke to yoke. Then they said to her, Hey, Ambapali, why are you meeting the young Lichavis head on, axle to axle, wheel to wheel, yoke to yoke? Sirs, I have just invited the Sangha bhikkhus headed by the Blessed One for tomorrow's meal. Hey, Ambapali, hand over that meal to us for 100,000. Sir, I would not hand over tomorrow's meal even if you gave me Vesali with all its lands. Then the Lichavis snapped their fingers. Oh, the mango girl has beaten us. The mango girl has outwitted us. Amba is mango in Pali. They drove on towards Ambapali's grove. The Blessed One saw them coming in the distance. He told the bhikkhus, Let the bhikkhus who have never seen the deities in the heaven of the 33 look at the band of Lichavis. Let them observe the band of Lichavis. Let them imagine the deities of the heaven of the 33 to be like this band of Lichavis. The Lichavis drove as far as the way was passable for carriages. Then they alighted and went on foot to where the Blessed One was. They paid homage to him and sat down at one side. Then the Blessed One instructed, urged, roused, and encouraged them with talk on the Dhamma. Afterwards they said to him, Lord, let the Blessed One, together with the Sangha bhikkhus, accept tomorrow's meal from us. I have already accepted tomorrow's meal, Lichavis, from Ambapali the courtesan. Then the Lichavis snapped their fingers. Oh, the mango girl has beaten us. The mango girl has outwitted us. However, they were happy and satisfied with the Blessed One's words, and they got up from their seats and departed, keeping him on their right. So when the night was over, the courtesan Ambapali had various kinds of good food prepared in her own park, and she had the time announced. It is time, Lord, the meal is ready. When the Blessed One had eaten and no longer had the bowl in his hand, Ambapali took a low seat and sat down at one side. She said, Lord, I present this mango grove to the Sangha of Bhikkhus, headed by the Blessed One. The Blessed One accepted the park, and after he had instructed her with talk on the Dhamma, he rose from his seat and went away. And while the Blessed One was living there at Vesali, in Ambapali's grove, he often gave this talk on the Dhamma to the bhikkhus. Such is virtue, such is concentration, such is understanding. Concentration fortified with virtue brings great benefits and great fruits. Understanding fortified with concentration brings great benefits and great fruits. The heart fortified with understanding becomes completely liberated from taints, from the taint of sensual desire, the taint of being, the taint of views, and the taint of ignorance. Is there any holy sites at Vesali? Does like Ambapali Grove still exist?
Yeah, we went there. That's a big one.
Ah.
Ambapali's
Mm.
Mango Grove. It's very close to Kusinara.
Okay, then the next is found in the Digha Nikaya and in Sangyutta 47, Sutta number 9.
There's an Asokan pillar there.
Oh, a Asokan pillar. And a what?
At Ambapali's
Oh,
Mango Grove.
oh, okay.
There's an Asokan pillar.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, King Asoka would have made the effort to put all those. Because Vesali plays quite an interesting role in the life of the Buddha. He spent a lot of time in and out, because a lot of it was sort of on the way between his, like the Sakya country and Magadha. When the Blessed One had lived in Ambapali's grove as long as he chose, he said to the Venerable Ananda, "Come, Ananda, let us go to Beluvagamaka." "Even so, Lord," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One journeyed to Beluvagamaka with a large community of bhikkhus. While there, he lived at Beluvagamaka. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus: "Come, bhikkhus, take up residence for the rains in the neighborhood of Vesali, wherever you have friends or companions or acquaintances. I shall take up residence for the rains here at Beluvagamaka." "Even so, Lord," they replied, and they did so. After the Blessed One had taken up residence for the rains, a severe sickness attacked him with violent and deadly pains. He bore them without complaint, mindful and fully aware. Then he thought, "It is not right for me to attain final Nibbana without having addressed my attendants and taken leave of the Sangha of Bhikkhus. Suppose I forcibly suppress the sickness by prolonging the will to live." He did so. And then the sickness abated. The Blessed One recovered from that sickness. Soon afterwards he came out from the sick room and sat on a seat made ready at the back of the dwelling. The Venerable Ananda went to him and said, "I have been used to seeing the Blessed One in comfort and in health, Lord. Indeed, with the Blessed One's sickness, I felt as if my body were quite rigid. I could not see straight. My ideas were all unclear. However, Lord, I comforted myself, knowing that the Blessed One would not attain final Nibbana without a pronouncement about the Sangha of Bhikkhus." So this, was obviously, he just didn't have a headache and a sore tummy. I mean, it was obviously a very severe illness that both the Buddha thought of that and Ananda himself being quite distraught. "But Ananda, what does the Sangha expect of me? The Dhamma I have taught has no secret and public versions. There is no teacher's closed fist about good things here. Surely it would be someone who thought thus: 'I shall govern the Sangha,' or 'the Sangha depends on me,' who might make a pronouncement about the Sangha. A perfect one does not think like that. How then can he make a pronouncement about the Sangha? Now I am old, Ananda. My years have turned 80. Just as an old cart is made to carry on with the help of makeshifts, so too, it seems to me, the perfect one's body is made to carry on with the help of makeshifts. For the perfect one's body is only at ease when, with non-attention to all signs and with cessation of certain kinds of feeling, he enters upon and dwells in the signless heart deliverance. So, Ananda, each of you should make himself his island, himself and no other his refuge. Each of you should make the Dhamma his island, the Dhamma and no other his refuge. How does a bhikkhu do that? Here a bhikkhu abides contemplating the body as a body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating feelings as feelings, contemplating consciousness as consciousness, contemplating mental objects as mental objects, ardent, fully aware, mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Either now or when I am gone, it is those, whoever they may be, who make themselves their island, themselves and no other their refuge, who make the Dhamma their island, the Dhamma and no other their refuge. Who will be the foremost among my bhikkhus? Of those, that is, who want to train. So this is, to me, is really a very, say, important statements and very important kind of perspectives and pronouncements in that sense of, one is the just that the Buddha himself, okay, there's maybe it's not quite the right time yet, there's still, and for even a Buddha, fully awakened Buddha, so you think, yeah, there's always something else to do. I mean, that's the nature of any condition. But the Buddha's say, okay, kind of wrap it up properly, and but then to forcibly suppress the sickness, and that's something that say is, especially in the forest tradition, is used because often, especially in the forest tradition, where they didn't have very much access to medical treatment or doctors or hospitals, and they would use the say the power of their meditation. One that's Dhamma Osata, and it's you say the medicine of Dhamma to help the body to heal itself or to bring it into abeyance, and that, and of course there's in Stillness Flowing, there's quite a touching account of Luang Cha himself dealing with malaria and being really racked with malaria and quite ill, and then just putting his attention on his meditation and sitting and basically sitting and collapsing, sitting and collapsing, sitting and collapsing, and then sitting, and then going into deep meditation, and that I remember also one time talking with Luang Por Thun, the abbot of Tam Pet, and where and especially in the early days, Tam Pet used to have quite a lot of malaria, and he said he had he was sick with malaria, and then one day just sitting and just sitting with the malaria, and then just working with the meditation, going with the meditation, and then settling on his meditation, the mind really settling down, and then his and then feeling completely at ease, and then when he came back to, say, normal state of consciousness and awareness, he'd been sitting. He wasn't able to sit up comfortably on his own, so he propped himself up against one of the pillars in the sala at Samsang Pat, and so he was sitting there. And then, but then when he came in, he sort of looked around himself, and all around him was soaked with water, because malaria fevers can be really intense, and that he was basically sitting in a puddle of his own sweat, and but he said he felt they'd really made he'd reached a point, and he was really starting to get better. So that is say how the Buddha dealt with that at that time, and then of course, as I say, Ananda being quite distraught. Also, the Buddha saying that the Dhamma I've taught has no secret and public versions. Everything is sort of laid out. There's not a special teaching for the inner core of disciples, and the riffraff don't get the real teaching. It's the Buddha gives his teaching freely and openly, and that is even to this day. There's sort of esoteric teachings, and teachings which you have to get some special permissions from the teacher. There's a certain exclusiveness about it. It's kind of and all traditions tend to do that, but the Buddha was very adamant in making the teacher whatever he taught was the real deal for everybody. He didn't hold anything back, and he didn't hide anything. And then, of course, the Buddha saying, it's like an old cart, just trying to keep it going, but that he could be comfortable by going into that real settled state of mind, non-attention to all signs. That animitta samadhi is say the samadhi that is not based on signs, and being able to withdraw to inner awareness as opposed to external kinds of objects of attention, and that making oneself the refuge, making Dhamma the refuge. Any questions, comments?
I'm wondering, speaking about secret teachings,
yes.
I'm wondering if you think that maybe some people hear really detailed instructions, and some people might hear really detailed instructions being given to someone else and think that they're receiving a secret teaching, but really they're just, the other person's receiving a teaching that's they're not ready for it personally. Like some teachers might give more detailed instruction when a certain person is ready or able to apply that practice.
Yeah, there's such a thing as too much information, And of course the Buddha really did. He did there's a famous simile of the handful of leaves. There's no point in teaching something if it doesn't help in the overcoming of suffering. But that's slightly different. It's like one wants to give teachings to somebody. And in the same way, when the Buddhas say like the Anupobikatha, it's the graduated discourse, a graduated teaching, taking the person through sila and generosity and karma and benefits and drawbacks of the world and renunciation. And when the person's mind was right and ready, then he would teach the Four Noble Truths. So it's not that he's holding it back, but there's no point in teaching. Too much information is not really helpful for the ending of suffering. But giving teachings that are, that's the skill of a good teacher, is knowing. It's not just giving information, but giving what is useful at the right time, the right place, or circumstance. Continuing on. Commentary. Although it is not explicitly so stated in the Pitakas, the Buddha appears to have visited Savatthi at this point, and it was while he was staying there that the news of the death of the two chief disciples reached him. And this is from Samyutta 47, Sutta number 13. The Blessed One was living at one time at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. But at that time, the Venerable Sariputta was living at Nalagamaka in the Magadhan country. He was afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill. The novice Chunda was his attendant. With that sickness, the Venerable Sariputta attained final Nibbana. Then the novice Chunda took the Venerable Sariputta's bowl and robes, and he went to the Venerable Ananda in Jeta's Grove at Savatthi. He paid homage to him and said, Lord, the Venerable Sariputta has attained final Nibbana. These are his bowl and robes. Friend Chunda, this should be told to the Blessed One for his information. We should see the Blessed One and tell him this. Let us go and tell him. Even so, Lord, the novice Chunda replied. They went together to the Blessed One and paid homage to him. Then they sat down at one side, and the Venerable Ananda said, Lord, this novice Chunda has told me that the Venerable Sariputta has attained final Nibbana, and that these are his bowl and robes. Indeed, Lord, when I heard this, I felt as though my body were quite rigid. I could not see straight, and all my ideas were unclear. Why, Ananda? Do you think that by attaining final Nibbana, he has taken away the code of virtue, or the code of concentration, or the code of understanding, or the code of deliverance, or the code of knowledge and vision of deliverance? Not that, Lord, but I think how helpful he was to his fellows in the holy life, advising, informing, instructing, urging, rousing, and encouraging them. How tireless he was in teaching them the Dhamma. We remember how the Venerable Sariputta fed us and enriched us and helped us with the Dhamma. Ananda, have I not already told you that there is separation and parting and division from all that is dear and beloved? How could it be that what is born, come to being, formed, and subject to fall, should not fall? That is not possible. It is as if a main branch of a great tree standing firm and solid had fallen. So too, Sariputta has attained final Nibbana in a great community that stands firm and solid. How could it be that what is born, come to being, formed, and bound to fall should not fall? That is not possible. Therefore, Ananda, each of you should make himself his island, himself and no other his refuge. Each of you should make the Dhamma his island, the Dhamma and no other his refuge. So the Buddha can be pretty tough with Ananda sometimes, but and certainly the acknowledgement of, and Ananda's great at coming back at just pointing to the yes, I mean he feels and a grief at the loss of Sariputta, who they were. They were very they had a very close relationship and close friendship, and but that recognition also of this is a big loss to everybody in the community and in the sangha, and so and but then the Buddha sort of saying yes, but it's there is this inevitability of separation and parting, but that the Sariputta was a part of a larger whole, and the whole is still solid. So that's it's an expression of confidence of the Buddha in the sangha, in the dispensation, and the encouragement for everyone to be making the the teachings, the Dhamma, the practice, and one's own commitment as one's refuge. Yeah. Any questions, comments? Okay, so then the next sutta is also from the Samyutta Nikaya, and it is actually the subsequent sutta to the one I just read. So Samyutta 47, number 14. At one time, the Blessed One was living with a large community of bhikkhus in the Vajjian country at Ukkajela, on the banks of the Ganges. It was soon after Sariputta and Moggallana had attained final Nibbana. On that occasion, the Blessed One was sitting in the open, surrounded by the Sangha of bhikkhus. Then, after surveying the silent Sangha of bhikkhus, he addressed them thus. Now the assembly seems to me as though it were empty. The assembly is empty for me now that Sariputta and Moggallana have attained final Nibbana. There is nowhere that one can look to and say, Sariputta and Moggallana are living there. The Blessed Ones in the past, accomplished and fully enlightened, each had a pair of disciples, the equal of Sariputta and Moggallana, and so will those in the future. It is wonderful, it is marvelous in the disciples, how they give effect to the Master's teaching and carry out his advice, and how they are dear to the Sangha and loved and respected and revered by the Sangha. It is wonderful, it is marvelous in the Perfect One that when such a pair of disciples has attained final Nibbana, he neither sorrows nor laments. How could it be that what is born, come to being, formed, and bound to fall should not fall? That is not possible. So there's, the Buddha is looking at that and looking back. To me, it's not that he doesn't have any feeling or feelings, but it's within the context of Dhamma. It's within the context of this irrevocable truths, And yes, I mean that the sangha is feels kind of empty, and they've formed such a huge piece of his life and the life of the sangha. But yeah, how could it be that what is born, come to being, formed, and bound to fall should not fall? That is not possible. So it's a acknowledgement and recognition of these fundamental realities, and taking that, and that's taking that as one's refuge, as opposed to the relationships that one has, which is dear and rewarding and full as they are. It's not really not really a refuge. It's not that you don't rely on them. It's not that you don't draw close to them to nurture those relationships. I mean, that's one of the things that the Buddha says are so important for growing in the Dhamma is that drawing close to, having Kalyanamitta, having good spiritual friendships. And you don't have a good spiritual friendship without drawing close to those who are that one, say, respects or relies on and whatnot, but being able to couch that in the truths of the Dhamma. So this next is back to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. It's also in Anguttara 8, as well as the Udana. One morning the Blessed One dressed, and taking his bowl and robe, he went into Vesali for alms. When he had wandered for alms in Vesali, and had returned from his alms round after his meal, he spoke to the Venerable Ananda. Take a mat, Ananda, let us go to the Chapala shrine to pass the day. Even so, Lord, the Venerable Ananda replied, and he took a mat and followed after the Blessed One to the Chapala shrine. There the Blessed One sat down on a seat made ready, and the Venerable Ananda paid homage to him and sat down at one side. When he had done so, the Blessed One said, Vesali is agreeable, Ananda, and so are the Udana shrine, the Gautambaka shrine, the Satambaka shrine, the Bahuputta shrine, the Sarandala shrine, and the Chapala shrine. When anyone has maintained in being and developed the four bases for success, made them the vehicle, made them the foundation, established, consolidated, and properly undertaken them, he could, if he wished, live out the age or what remains of the age. Ananda, the Perfect One, has done all that. He could, if he wished, live out the age or what remains of the age. Even when such a broad hint, such a plain sign, was given by the Blessed One, still the Venerable Ananda could not understand it. He did not beg the Blessed One, Lord, let the Blessed One live out the age. Let the Sublime One live out the age. For the welfare and happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the good and welfare and happiness of gods and men. So much was his mind under Mara's influence. A second and a third time the Blessed One said the same thing, and the Venerable Ananda's mind remained under Mara's influence. Then the Blessed One told the Venerable Ananda, You may go, Ananda, now is the time to do as you like. Even so, Lord, he replied, and rising from his seat he paid homage to the Blessed One. Then, keeping him on his right, he went away to sit down at the root of a nearby tree. Soon after he had gone, Mara, the evil one, came to the Blessed One and stood at one side. He said, "Let the Blessed One attain final Nibbana now. Let the Sublime Ones attain final Nibbana now. Now is the time for the Blessed One to attain final Nibbana." These words were spoken once by the Blessed One. "I will not attain final Nibbana, evil one, until the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, laymen followers, and laywomen followers, my disciples, are wise, disciplined, perfectly confident, and learned, until they remember the Dhamma properly, practice the way of the Dhamma, practice the true way, and walk in the Dhamma. Until after learning from their own teachers, they announce and teach and declare and establish and reveal and expound and explain. Until they can reasonably confute the theories of others that arise and can teach the Dhamma with its marvels. But now all that has been accomplished. Let the Blessed One attain final Nibbana now." These words were spoken by the Blessed One. "I will not attain final Nibbana, evil one, until this holy life has become successful, prosperous, widespread, and disseminated among many, until it is well exemplified by men. But now all that has been accomplished. Let the Blessed One attain final Nibbana now." When this was said, the Blessed One replied, "You may rest, evil one. Soon the Perfect One's attainment of final Nibbana will take place. 3 months from now, the Perfect One will attain final Nibbana." It was then at the Chapala shrine that the Blessed One, mindful and fully aware, relinquished the will to live. When he did so, there was a great earthquake, fearful and hair-raising, and the drums of heaven resounded. Knowing the meaning of this, the Blessed One then uttered this exclamation: "The sage renounced the life-affirming will, both measurable and immeasurable, and concentrated inwardly and happy too. He shed his self-becoming like a coat of mail." The Venerable Ananda thought, "It is wonderful, it is marvelous. That was a great earthquake, a very great earthquake. It was fearful and hair-raising, and the drums of heaven resounded. What was the cause? What was the reason for the manifestation of that great earthquake?" He went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side. When he had done so, he asked the Blessed One about the earthquake. "There are 8 causes, Ananda, 8 reasons for the manifestation of great earthquakes." "What are the 8? "This great earth stands in water, the water stands in air, the air in space. There are occasions when great winds blow, great forces move. The great winds blowing, great forces moving, make the water quake. The water quaking makes the earth quake. That is the first reason. Again, a monk or Brahmin may possess supernormal power and have reached mind mastery, or deities may be mighty and powerful. One who has maintained in being the perception of earth limitedly and the perception of water measurelessly can rock this earth and make it quake and shake and tremble. This is the second reason. Again, when a bodhisattva, mindful and fully aware, passes away from the heaven of the contented and descends into his mother's womb, then the earth rocks and quakes and shakes and trembles. This is the third reason. Again, when a bodhisattva, mindful and fully aware, comes forth from his mother's womb, then the earth rocks. This is the fourth reason. Again, when a perfect one discovers supreme full enlightenment, then the earth rocks. This is the fifth reason. Again, when a perfect one sets the matchless wheel of the Dhamma rolling, then the earth rocks. This is the sixth reason. Again, when a perfect one, mindful and fully aware, relinquishes the will to live, then the earth rocks. This is the seventh reason. Again, when a perfect one attains final Nibbana with the Nibbana element without result of past clinging left, then the earth rocks. This is the eighth reason. questions, comments on that? Okay, the next part of the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, and it's also in Anguttara Nikaya. Once, Ananda, when I was newly enlightened, when I was living at Uruvela on the banks of the Niranjara river at the root of the goatherd's banyan tree, Mara the evil one came to me and said, "Let the Blessed One attain final Nibbana now." Then the Blessed One went on to tell all that had passed between him and Mara. Then he said, "And now, Ananda, this very day at the Chapala shrine, the Blessed One, mindful and fully aware, has relinquished his will to live." When he heard this, the Venerable Ananda said, "Lord, let the Blessed One live out the age. Let the Sublime One live out the age, for the welfare and happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the good, the welfare, and the happiness of gods and men." Enough, Ananda. Do not ask that of the Perfect One now. The time to ask that of the Perfect One has now gone by. Of course, the second time and the third time. Then after the third time, the Blessed One said, "Have you faith in the Perfect One's enlightenment, Ananda?" "Yes, Lord." "Then why do you press the Perfect One up to the third time?" "Lord, I heard and learned this from the Blessed One's lips. When anyone has maintained in being and developed the four bases for success, made them the vehicle, made them the foundations, established, consolidated, and properly undertaken them, he could, if he wished, live out the age, or what remains of the age. Have you faith, Ananda?" "Yes, Lord." "Then, Ananda, the wrongdoing is yours, the fault is yours. For even when such a broad hint, such a plain sign was given by the Perfect One, you could not understand it, and you did not beg the Perfect One to live out the age for the good, the welfare, happiness of gods and men. If you had done so, the Perfect One would have refused you twice, and then, at the third time, he would have consented. So, Ananda, the wrongdoing is yours, the fault is yours. Once, when I was living at Rajgaha on the Vulture Peak Rock, there too I told you, Rajgaha is delightful, and so is Vulture Peak, when anyone has maintained a being, and it goes on through that, all these different places where the same thing happened. Nigroda Park, Robbers Cliff, slopes of the Waybara, Sattapani Cave, Black Rock on the slopes, overhanging rock, of the Serpent's Pool and the Cool Grove, Park of the Hot Spring, Bamboo Grove, Squirrel Sanctuary, Jivaka's Mango Grove, the Deer Park, Maddakuchi, once too was living here at Vesali, the Udana Shrine, the Gautamika Shrine, the Satambasha Bahuputta Shrine, Sarandada Shrine, now too here in the Chapala Shrine. Have I not already told you? That there is separation and parting and division from all that is dear and beloved. How could it be that what is born, come to being, formed, bound to fall, should not fall? That is not possible. Something has been given up by the Perfect One, dropped, let go, abandoned, relinquished by him. His will to live has been renounced. The unequivocal words have been uttered by the Perfect One. Soon the Perfect One's attainment of final Nibbana will take place. 3 months from now, the Perfect One will attain final Nibbana. It is impossible for the Perfect One to go back on those words. Let us go to the hall with the pointed roof in the great wood, Ananda. Even so, Lord, the Venerable Ananda replied, and when they went there, the Blessed One addressed the Venerable Ananda. Ananda, go and summon all the bhikkhus in the neighborhood of Vesali to meet in the service hall. Even so, Lord, the Venerable Ananda replied. When he had done that, he informed the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One went to the service hall and sat down on the seat made ready, and he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, I have now taught you things that I have directly known. These you should thoroughly learn and maintain in being, develop and constantly put into effect so that this holy life may endure long. You should do so for the welfare and happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the good and welfare and happiness of gods and men. And what are these things? They are the four foundations of mindfulness, the four right endeavors, the four bases for success, the five spiritual faculties, the five spiritual powers, the seven enlightenment factors, and the Noble Eightfold Path. I have taught you these things, having directly known them. These you should thoroughly learn for the good and welfare and happiness of gods and men. Then the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus, Indeed, bhikkhus, I declare this to you. It is in the nature of all formations to dissolve. Attain perfection through diligence. Soon the Perfect One will attain final Nibbana. So the Blessed One said. The Sublime One having said this, the Master said further, Ripe is my age, and little life remains to me. I leave you and depart. My own refuge is made. Be diligent and mindful. Be virtuous, O bhikkhus. With thoughts well concentrated, keep watch over your hearts. Who lives out diligently this Dhamma and discipline will leave the round of rebirths and make an end of pain. When it was morning, the Blessed One dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, he went into Vesali for alms. When he had wandered for alms in Vesali and was returning from his alms round after his meal, he turned to gaze at Vesali with an elephant's gaze. Then he said to the Venerable Ananda, Ananda, this will be the Perfect One's last sight of Vesali. Come, Ananda, let us go to Bandagama. Even so, Lord, the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One journeyed to Bandagama with a large community of bhikkhus. While there he lived in Bandagama, and there he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, it is through not discovering, not penetrating four things that both I and you have had to travel and trudge thus through this long round. What are the four? They are the Noble One's virtue, the Noble One's concentration, the Noble One's understanding, and the Noble One's deliverance. When these four things have been discovered and penetrated, then craving about being is cut off, craving that leads to being is abolished, and there is no renewal of being. So I'll end that for today. It's after 10:30. Sadhu.